Also, the search for clean energy, paramount, of course, in this age of climate change. But find out why the U.S., unlike other countries, has not warmed up to the idea of nuclear power. Stay with us. Well, this week, the Nuclear Regulatory Commission has been holding its annual conference. It's calling it Navigating the Nuclear Future. And part of that future is a push to utilize both smaller and safer plants.
These new plants are a far cry from the giant structures of the 1970s, which became a symbol of the industry following the 3 Mile Island accident. Advocates say these new plants can be a solution to our global warming challenges. But despite these developments, this commission has been slow to put these new plants and technologies into service. Seth Grae has been attending the nuclear conference this week, and he is also a board member on the Nuclear Energy Institute. Seth, thank you so much for coming on the show. So if these new high-tech, smaller plants, safer plants can deliver clean energy, why aren't we seeing construction of them?
Well, the NRC is trying to take steps to improve the speed and predictability of cost of licensing, and they're also hiring hundreds of new experts who have the capacity to look at new and innovative technologies and license them safely. So the NRC, while it's a safety regulator, is well aware of the commercial realities. There's a great push for nuclear power, partly to help solve climate change, since nuclear does not emit any CO2, and also for energy security for ourselves and our allies to wean off fossil fuels from petro-dictators like Putin. And these new safe reactors that can be quicker to deploy, much cheaper to deploy, are facing some new licensing structures that the NRC is coming up with. And I say that I'm heartened by what the 5 commissioners of the NRC have been saying here at the conference, that they really are taking this very seriously and looking to have much more predictable and shorter timeframes for licensing and lower costs for licensing.
Is part of the problem also, I wonder, a PR issue? When we think nuclear, you hear that word, and it's always nuclear weapons. It's North Korea's trying to do this, and Putin's trying to do that as the war in Ukraine drags on. And then people hear nuclear and think of 3 Mile Island and Chernobyl. There's a PR issue here that almost seems insurmountable to get over. How do you climb that mountain in all of this, no matter how much safer for the environment that form of energy may be compared to fossil fuels?
Well, we're seeing a lot of very effective ways to get over it. One is you put reactors on sites that already have reactors where the local communities are very supportive. There's a reactor that will open in the next few months in Georgia on the Vogel site, and then later this year, another one on that same site, 2 large reactors. There's also a lot of coal plants in the country that have closed or are planning to close, that are on sites that have the connections to the electric grid, that have workers who know how to run turbines and generators, very similar to what you have in these small reactors. And you potentially could site these reactors in these communities that very much want new advanced power plants, new training for jobs, and you don't need to have new transmission lines if you put the reactors where the coal plants were. And we're seeing very welcoming communities in Wyoming, in Montana, in Virginia, in many states, looking at these small modular reactors.
Any concerns about the potential environmental impact with expanding on nuclear energy? Rob mentioning Chernobyl, what happened there, obviously such a disaster years back. Does that come to mind?
Yeah. Yeah, very different Soviet technology. These new reactors and new fuels in reactors can make it so that the evacuation zone doesn't even extend across the street from where the plant is, that any incident can be contained inside the facility and never leak out. So at Lightbridge, we're working on fuels that will make these reactors even safer. And from an environmental standpoint, I think that these new reactors with advanced fuels will be the safest thing for the environment and for human health that you could deploy to have reliable around-the-clock electricity.
And one more thing before we let you go. Do you have a ballpark timeline in your head? The ideal in your mind, and then the reality check timeline on when you think this country really may get to a point where nuclear becomes more widespread and accepted and just part of our energy landscape. Are we 10 years away, or are we a generation away?
No, it's definitely 10 years. We're going to see the first of a kind small reactors being deployed in Idaho, in Wyoming, and other places across the country. The Department of Energy is cost sharing with companies to do that. And as they're demonstrated to be safe, to be economical, I think that those communities will be very supportive, and that others will want these, as we're seeing inflation, very high energy prices hurting everybody. Having reliable energy prices that can't vary much over time and reliable power is something I think will be very attractive.
And when the Nuclear Regulatory Commission Information Conference, as that's going on, how are the after parties when you guys get together? What goes on when you guys get done discussing the serious stuff? What kind of crew is there in Maryland?
It's over 1,000 people, and a lot of us tend to know each other. It's not a big industry. They were playing over the PA system at the start of the conference this morning, Hurt So Good by John Mellencamp. But then they got down to more serious business of licensing these new small reactors, and it's generally a very friendly group, and there are a lot of receptions, a lot of dinners, and the commissioners attend, government officials attend, and people really get to hear each other's concerns.
It's a fascinating topic, and it'd be fascinating to see also where this goes in the years to come. Seth Grae, thanks so much for your time. Enjoy the conference, and please come back.
Thank you.
All right.